Good evening, and thank you for joining me in my first reading from Brother Goose, my new book, Modern Fairy Tale Collection. It's really interesting because I wrote this book in July, and I very rarely write a book and put it out really closely after I write it. But there's just something about this book, and I don't know. I'm getting used to it in real time and I'm learning so much about it and growing from it and growing with it in real time. So, yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm going to read four stories. They're not in any order, they're not connected, but they're all really good. And since it's Halloween, spooky season, I wanted to I wanted to do something that was read stories that were a bit on the darker ghoulish side. So, aside from the two first stories, which are the two stories I've made videos for already, um the last two are some of the darker, more ghastly, grim type of stories. But it's all good fun and it's all for everybody. But yeah, so let's get started with the first story, The Bewitching Forest. Wanting to build a new factory for his company, Ventrell decided on the acres of a lush, gorgeous forest. Though remote as it was, local villagers warned him that whomever disturbed the forest would be cursed in an unbelievable fashion. Yet, Ventrell believed it was all bulldoggy and did not care, and proceeded with the construction in utter defiance. Within half a year, the factory had been built, and all was going well as profits doubled. But no sooner were sales rising than Ventrell began his radical change. First, it was his hair, which had become leaves, and then his arms, which had become branches. Soon went the legs, turned into tangled roots, and then his torso, a thick trunk. And before he knew it, his entire body had become a tree. In vain, Ventrell tried to move, but he could not. And then he tried to scream for help, but he could not. He could only see as the workers cut down more trees, and he could only listen as the buzzsaws got nearer to himself. That's probably like the shortest story in this collection, but I love it. Previously, I've stated it's because of the whole like tycoon getting their comeuppance, and we need more stories like that. But anyway, I'll go to the next one. This is a lost channel. The other one I've made a video for. There was once a housewife named Renaya who did nothing but film her perfect life. Her videos had become so popular that all time was spent recording, editing, and then recording more, often at the bother and annoyance of the family, whom she would force to film with her. She cared very little for their own problems, dreams, or desires, which included wanting more free time with her. Nor did she care very much for their love, which seemed to only matter when they were in front of the camera. Even her husband felt as if he were merely another object that she could showcase, another toy she could play with. All that mattered to Renaya was how many new followers she gained, how many views she racked up, and how many comments were being left. The only time she showed any true emotion was when she uploaded a new video and watched the reaction. One day, Renaya was recording a breakfast video when she noticed that her newborn baby had suddenly disappeared. Only moments prior, he was sitting in his high chair, and then, once she turned around, he had vanished. Frantically, she began to search under the table and then out of the room, calling for her other children. Racing into the twins' bedroom, she saw that they too had disappeared. And so she ran into the room of her eldest son, and he too had disappeared. Panicked, Renaya then ran into her own bedroom, the one she shared with her husband, but she found out he too had disappeared. "Where is everybody?" she shouted at the top of her lungs, and yet no one answered. That was when she heard the chime coming from her computer. Her heart pounding, Renaya walked into her office and saw that there was a message on her screen, and so she approached it and saw that it was a notification for a new video that had just been posted. She clicked on it, sat down in her chair, and gazed as the video popped up. There on the screen was her own family sitting in the dining room, eating and laughing, all without her. Petrified, Renaya rushed to the dining room, hoping to find them there, hoping it was some colossal joke, but there was no one there. And so she rushed back into her office and slumped now in the chair, watching the family enjoying themselves. One of the twins stopped laughing for a moment and then asked, where's Mom? Isn't that her name?" "Mom?" asked the other twin. "Yeah, who's Mom?" wondered her eldest son. "I don't know," the first twin shrugged, and then, after a moment, "Maybe I made her up or something?" The baby laughed and clapped his hands, and then the rest of the family broke into laughter once more, going back to eating the delicious breakfast laid before them. Renaya reached out and touched the screen, tears streaming from her eyes, and then she turned off the computer. I really love that one just because it's really reflective of our influencer culture and the amount of effort people put into getting people's attention and loving the attention more than the people around them and putting that above love and family and friends. So, yeah, I just, that's one of my favorites. For my next one, this is The President's Son. This is a nice, another family story, but with a twist. Upon his birth, the son of a prominent political family was adored by all, as he was the only male child in 2 generations. Yet, his Aunt Cleona, who had always resented the attention given to her younger sister Sienna, did not care for the child, and when she was left alone with him, promptly cursed him to die by his 16th birthday. Although Sienna had discovered Cleona's act, it was too late for her to reverse it, and thus the son whom she called Tamrin was kept safe and away from most others throughout his life. But one day in his 15th year, Sienna became president, and Tamrin could no longer be hidden in the shadows. And of no surprise, he did become quite popular with the general public. Many believed that he possessed the same charisma as his mother and those in her family, all of them senators or governors, and he began to imagine himself entering politics as he got older. However, although Tamrin welcomed the newfound faith, his mother discouraged it, knowing that he may not in fact live to see another year. As it were, Cleona, who had been banished, watched from afar as Tamrin's popularity grew and decided she would take it upon herself to rid him of the world, knowing that his death would only pain her sister out of the presidency. And so, one day, when Tamrin was alone at home, Cleona dressed as security, led him out, kidnapped him, and took him to a dark house far in the countryside. There she plotted her wrath, which she knew would have to be gruesome in order to be complete. Although Tamrin was scared, he did not feel doomed, and when Cleona was mixing up her brews, he untangled himself and began searching for a way out of the house. But once he crept past the kitchen, his presence was known, and Cleona emerged and she quickly transformed into a large, disgusting creature with 3 heads and skin made of scales. She reached out to him, grabbed him, and then threw him across the room, and then he crashed into a mirror, breaking it into millions of pieces. Coming toward him, Cleona stomped across the ground, shaking it madly. And as she came for him once again, Tamron took a large shard of glass and stuck it clear into her stomach, splitting it up and down, and then came the bloody ooze from within. And so his great monster of an aunt collapsed, and the curse was lifted, and Tamron did see to his 16th year, and many of those after. Now, for my final story, I'm going to do Kiaria. And this is probably in my top 3. And it's funny because my top 3 of these stories might change daily. Like I said, I'm getting used to and growing with these stories in real time. So I love all of them. And side note, I don't love everything I do. So this is something pivotal. But Kiaria, this is nice, has a little romantic element to it, but here we go. A beautiful model who no longer felt appreciated broke off her engagement with a tech bro, and so he transformed into a vicious demon with spiked horns and dragged her down to the underworld. There she was terrorized by cruel and disgusting monsters, all more terrifying than the last, and they jeered and called and screamed at her madly. One almost reached to snatch her off to a corner, but their arm was sawed off by a machete held by what appeared to be another mortal. The man, whose eyes were like gray moons, took her hand and told her, "I'm Drew." "I'm Kiaria," said she, and the two ran away from the hideous scene. "How long have you been here?" "Far too," said Drew. "My girlfriend at the time, well, she was a demon, and she brought me here after we broke up." "That's what happened with my fiancé," Kiaria explained, "except I didn't know he was a demon." "Neither did I," Drew told her. "I suppose the joke is on us." As cold and betrayed as both felt, their bodies grew warmer the more they spoke, and they each took turns, trying not to gaze at the other, hoping in vain to be caught. And in silence they walked down a tunnel that appeared to get darker and darker, and so Drew reached out his hand, gripping to Kiaria's. "So we don't get lost," he said, even though she did not care the reason. "Is there any way out of here?" Kiaria asked. "Yes, but you have to kill the queen of the demons," Drew told her. And no sooner had he spoken than they were snatched in the pitch blackness and dragged kicking and screaming to the grand court of the queen of the demons. And she sat there with her fine trimmings and horrid skin, holding a scepter made of bones and organs. And before they could speak, she was already laughing in hunger. My, a new one I see," she went. "I suppose you believe I should not eat you?" "No, you shouldn't," Kiaria told her. "And why's that?" asked the Queen of Demons. "Because I want to fight for my freedom," said the model. So amused by her challenge, the Queen of Demons laughed once more, advised Kiaria to prepare for her death, and then handed her a sword as a consolation. And the battle began in earnest, as Kiaria was much out of her league, being subjected to claws, bites, and bruises, and yet keeping her mind clear and her heart steady. Laughing at the mortal, the Queen of Demons raised her scepter, shooting out a blue blaze, and it struck Kiaria deeply and forced her to the ground. "Guards, prepare my table. I'm going to have a big dinner tonight," went the Queen of Demons. But Kiaria was not down long, rising up, grabbing the sword, and rushing toward the Queen of Demons. At first, the queen slid off to the side, forcing Kiaria to brush past and hit a dirt wall. But as Kiaria spun around, she ran, jumped high into the air, and then landed clear atop of the queen's shoulder. As the queen struggled to throw her off, Kiaria brought the sword to the queen's neck and cut clean across. While the demons rejoiced, Kiaria grabbed Drew's hand and the two escaped the underworld. And for his worth, the tech bro was doomed to be eaten alive for centuries on end. I always love that ending. Sorry. But so there you have it. Four great stories from Brother Goose. And I hope that you guys check out the book and just enjoy it as much as I do. It's definitely something new and something different, something exciting, but really more so just something now, you know? And I think that's really why I wanted to put it out. It felt more like me and where my mind is and where the world is today than the stuff that I had written years ago that I was planning on publishing. But yeah, that's what it is. It's just this connection. And I think you should always put out the stuff that means a lot to you, that speaks to you, that speaks to who you are and where you are. And I think that's where the best art comes from. And it speaks back to people in a greater way. So thanks again for being here with me, enjoying this time with me. I hope you had a great time as much as I have, and have a good night.